we kick off the main event of the evening with an electrifying showdown between Harley Race and Ric Flair for the NWA World Championship title. As we enter the arena, Tom Miller takes center stage, pumping up the crowd with a pumped-in national anthem. It's a unique twist, for sure. Almost like boxing, right? The atmosphere is elevated as a spotlight illuminates an old glory, hanging proudly in the balcony of Greensboro Coliseum. I have to say, it caught me off guard. Jim Crockett must have had some tricks up his sleeve to wake everyone up, or maybe just induce some naps, who knows. But then the lights dim and we are transported to the realm of 2001 Space Odyssey. Yes, that's right. A disco ball graces the ceiling, casting shimmering stars all around. It's Starrcade after all, and they want to create an unforgettable experience. They even throw in a laser light show, although it's a bit difficult to see. And then, with a flicker, a single pyro sparkler ignites, silently erupting like a dryer gone rogue. And there he is, Flair himself. Let me tell you, it's an epic sight. He emerges from the smoke, a magnificent silhouette against the white mist. Absolute money. He struts confidently, arms outstretched, spinning around to soak in the adoration of the crowd. Flair found himself surrounded by a swarm of police officers, ensuring his safe passage to the ring. However, Flair was bombarded with a series of backslaps as he struggled to navigate through the steel rail and enter the ring. The crowd rose to their feet as the challenger made his way into the arena, creating an atmosphere of immense anticipation. Taking away all the extravagant fanfare, Flair's body language spoke volumes, exuding both nervousness and serenity. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Their chance at glory. The camera briefly shifted to the menacing figure of Race, adorned in his iconic red, white, and blue robe with his name prominently displayed. The boos resonated through the arena, yet Race seemed to halt his advance, waiting for something before making his move towards the ring. There was a pregnant pause, and then Race commenced his walk, emanating a stoic aura that remained unaffected by the grandiosity of the occasion. He stood at the cage door, pausing for a prolonged moment, locking eyes with his adversary, Flair. The announcer, Tom Miller, introduced the esteemed referee, Gene Kineski, a renowned figure in the world of professional wrestling and the NWA champion. Kineski wasted no time and immediately began his duties, busily inspecting the turnbuckles. He was quite hands-on in his approach, causing some to question if his presence would negatively impact the match. There had been whispers from Harley, who harbored mixed feelings towards this encounter. While acknowledging its historical significance, he harbored doubts about Flair's readiness for a lengthy reign as the industry's top star and champion. Harley had made it clear that he wasn't particularly fond of the match, citing Kineski's excessive interference as a major issue. And let me tell you, if you were to hear Harley's sentiments before witnessing this match, it would be impossible to ignore or overlook his grievances. Kineski appeared to seamlessly blend into the background, much like any other referee. There was one incident during an interview with Harley Race where he referred to Gene Kineski as a bumbling, awkward nuisance who constantly obstructed the match, expressing his clear frustration. It was quite evident that Race was immensely displeased with Kineski's presence. From this point on, it would be incredibly challenging for anyone to disregard Kineski's prominent role. With confident authority, Kineski provided necessary instructions, occasionally demonstrating actions such as mimicking hitting the ropes for reasons unknown, presumably explaining what was permissible and what wasn't for their maneuvers. They engage in a lockup, but Gene steps in and separates them. Flair and Race lock up once more, but this time Flair swiftly transitions from a collar and elbow hold to taking Race down. Suddenly, Kineski intervenes by firmly grasping Flair's hands, seemingly trying to prevent any punches. Instead, his focus is on keeping Flair's fists open by holding on to his wrists. It's quite disappointing to witness this interference from someone who desires to be part of the spectacle. This situation leads me to mention an interesting fact. In professional football, the average duration of physical contact between players is approximately 14.5 minutes. However, if Flair and Race were to stretch out their performance to the full extent, it would surpass 60 minutes, equivalent to 4 football games. Harley executes a high knee maneuver off the Irish whip, reminiscent of Triple H's style, my friend. Race attempts a falling headbutt, but Flair cleverly evades and Race ends up face first on the mat. Flair retaliates by delivering some impactful knife chop hooks. However, the referee, Koneski, seems to struggle with counting the pinfall. He takes an incredibly long time and never seems convinced that both of Race's shoulders are down. It's like he's thorough to a fault, meticulously searching down there. Yep, that's the unmistakable sound of a dedicated professional wrestling referee. Flair manages to get back on his feet and places Race in a headlock, but Race's shoulders are clearly touching the mat and Koneski simply refuses to count. It's frustrating to watch. Harley seizes the opportunity to roll up Flair, but it's excruciating to witness how long it takes for Koneski to slip his hands under Race's shoulders and make the count. It's almost as if he doesn't want to do it. It's really putting a damper on my enjoyment of this match. Race eventually delivers a powerful vertical suplex for a near fall. He climbs up high for an elbow drop, but unfortunately misses his mark. In a swift turn of events, Flair scoops up Race and crashes down for a 2 count. Come on, Gene. Don't make the match 2-1. Sided now. I don't mean to ruin your fun, but Race is using his knee to apply pressure on Flair against the ropes. Gene then grabs Harley's arms and forcefully pulls him back, almost as if he's setting him up for a double-team move. Koneski seems to be inspecting his hand now. And just like that, Race lands a punch on Flair's face. Oh, dear Lord, witness the brutal knee drop delivered by the legendary Harley Race directly onto Flair's vulnerable throat. Race proceeds to unleash a bone-crushing piledriver, causing Flair to convulse in pain, particularly in his neck. I had foreseen this relentless attack on his neck, and I must admit I find myself inexplicably drawn to it. Yes, I am captivated by Race's calculated and methodical approach, exemplified by his devastating swing neckbreaker. Triple H may have tried to emulate Race, but there is a distinct difference. Race possesses a killer instinct. When Race moves slowly or executes a move with deliberation, it is with the intention of inflicting maximum agony and asserting control over the match's pace. Unfortunately, the crowd seems oblivious to the psychological warfare affecting Flair's neck, prompting Race to gesture towards Flair, as if pleading with the audience to comprehend. The commentators become engrossed in a discussion about Race's elusive killer instinct, displaying a sudden unity in their observation that Race is not displaying it, possibly due to his loathing for the pile driver. In a thrilling turn of events, Flair once again devours the cage, resulting in a gushing wound on his forehead. It was a spectacle of bloodshed as Ric Flair and Race engage in a battle that leaves both men battered and bruised. With closed fists flying, Gene grows increasingly concerned about the illegal blows. Flair, though visibly weakened and bleeding profusely, feigns dizziness. Race, too, suffers from his encounter with the cage, but not as severely as Flair. In a twist of fate, Race finds himself face first against the cage, courtesy of Flair's retaliation. Flair seizes the opportunity, delivering a devastating snapmare and driving his knee into Race's face in a display of his signature style. Both men continue to bleed, their bodies bearing witness to the brutality of the match. Flair attempts to secure victory with a piledriver, but yet mistrusts the referee's attentiveness and kicks out on his own. Unrelenting in his pursuit, Flair executes a powerful double underhook suplex, hoping to claim the victory. Flair hurls Race into the cage yet again, causing Race to collide with a pole. Gene, feeling the weight of responsibility, ensures his reactions align with the narrative, the wrestler's craft, despite his belief that it contradicts the referee's role. Once again, Gene aggressively pushes Flair around, reminding everyone that Gene is a seasoned competitor who wants to see these men wrestle. He then sarcastically remarks that if Gene doesn't want to referee, he should just book the territory himself. In a surprising turn of events, Race retaliates by forcefully slamming Flair's head into the cage, causing Gene to pry Race off Flair. It's as if Race's actions are breaking some unwritten rules of a cage match. This leads to a realization that if these actions are deemed illegal in a cage match, they should be deemed illegal in any match because the cage is not there to facilitate such behavior. Without mincing words, it's clear that Gene is not contributing positively to this match. I point out that after Race's headbutt, Gene grabs his hand again, prompting Race to essentially tell Gene to back off. Flair regains momentum and executes a chop drop on Race before covering him for a 2 count. In a fast-paced exchange, Race launches a surprise headbutt just as Flair drops down. Determined, Race attempts a powerful suplex, but Flair expertly counters while being lifted. Flair unpredictably goes for a crossbody, crashing down on Race. The crowd erupts, anticipating the outcome. Seizing the opportunity, Race retaliates with a devastating headbutt, sending Flair to the mat. With adrenaline pumping, Race climbs up the middle rope, igniting the audience's excitement. A terrible collision occurs as Race falls with full force, slamming his forehead against Flair's. Flair emits a painful cry. In a surprising turn of events, Flair thwarts Race's attempted vertical suplex and executes his own delayed vertical suplex, successfully lifting Race over his head. However, Flair misses his mark, and Race then delivers a powerful headbutt to Jim Konieczki. This sequence sets the stage for the highly anticipated Starrcade 83 finish. The origins of this climactic battle date back to a previous match in St. Louis, where Race claimed the NWA title from Flair. During that encounter, a pivotal moment occurred when Flair attempted a crossbody maneuver, unintentionally striking referee Sonny Fargo and missing Race. Rolling through the failed move, Race covered Flair for the win. The Starrcade 83 finish draws inspiration from that past title match. This time, however, Flair takes charge by diving onto Race and launch. Flair seizes the opportunity, pinning Race's leg for the count. Referee counts to 3, and Ric Flair emerges victorious, earning the illustrious title of NWA World Heavyweight Champion. This historic triumph marks North Carolina's first ever World Heavyweight title change at the grand finale of the inaugural Starrcade event. This momentous bout signified the end of an era for Harley Race, as it marked the culmination of his domination in the wrestling world. With a staggering 7 world title victories already under his belt, even though he had actually achieved 8 reigns, one of which went unrecognized by the NWA at that time due to his exchange with Giant Bubba. This final reign would be a poignant farewell to his exceptional career. Afterward, Race ventured to the AOAWA, engaging in an intense feud with Rick Martel before ultimately finding his way to the WWF, where he would gracefully conclude his wrestling journey. However, upon his return to WCW in 1990, it was clear that time had taken its toll on him, leaving only a shadow of his former self. Meanwhile, Ric Flair had experienced the taste of championship glory only once, having been dethroned by Race in June of that very year. In retrospect, Flair would later reflect upon this match as the pinnacle of his own career, labeling it as the symbolic passing of the torch from Race to himself. The entrances were an absolute riot, with an incredible light show to kick things off. Back in the day, this cutting-edge technology would have blown people's minds, but now it would just be seen as a hilarious gag. Still, it definitely added that extra big match vibe to the whole affair. And to slow things down, we had the one and only Gene Konieczki as the special guest referee, who was known for his deliberate pace. Flair showcased his strategic brilliance in the early stages of the match, executing some genius moves that had everyone in awe. The mat work was truly a sight to behold, with both wrestlers displaying their exceptional skills and making classic wrestling an absolute joy to watch. Race, on the other hand, had a laser focus on Flair's head and neck, attacking them as if his life depended on it. The psychology behind his relentless assault was top-notch, setting him up perfectly for his devastating finisher, the pile driver. The majority of the match saw Flair taking a beating, which only roused sympathy from the crowd. But as we all know, there's nothing more satisfying than witnessing the almighty comeback, and Flair delivered just that. The elusive flying body press has remained out of his grasp all this time, adding a remarkable touch to that unforgettable moment and solidifying Flair's career as a truly impressive narrative. It was an extraordinary match that would go on to define the entire path of the undisputed legend in professional wrestling. The grand spectacle of Starrcade '83 remains a timeless treasure and a testament to my unwavering affection for classic wrestling. This iconic event radiated an aura of sheer magnitude, accentuated by the presence of 3 extraordinary matches that defined an era, signaling a transformative juncture in the sport. It marked the farewell to a bygone era while heralding the advent of revolutionary changes.